Okay, this is NVHA 040025, our 147th interview overall. It is July the 13th, 2004, and we're at the home of Sheridan in Dallas, Texas. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and do this interview.
Well, I'm proud of the fact that you picked me.
Oh, thank you. Well, you had a little help there from your niece Joanne.
Yes, we
Joanne's
did.
a sweetheart. I really appreciate her for helping us with this too. Well, let's start out with your full name.
I'm Ann Sheridan, Anna M. Sheridan.
Okay. Does the M stand for anything in particular?
Well, it's Marie, but I just use, officially it's Anna M.
Okay.
And I kept that for many years.
And your maiden name?
Ginsterbloom.
Ginsterbloom. You may have to spell that one for us.
Well, that's simple. It's Ginsterbloom.
Okay.
Just the way it sounds.
All right. Well, I guess it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your date of birth?
December 5th, 1917.
Holy smokes, you've got two connections to me.
Another teenager.
Yeah, another teenager. Anybody born in the 19-teens, we consider a teenager because you're also hale and hearty and sharp of mind, and I'm amazed.
Well, it's amazing to me, even living in this place, how many of them are mentally as clear as a bell, but their minds are getting a little forgetful, which we all are.
Well, you were born in 1917, which is the year my mother was born, and you were born on December 5th, which is the day my father was born. He was born
is that right?
He was born in 07, but that's an interesting combination. I like you already.
Well, I like you too.
And what was your rank at discharge?
A first lieutenant.
Okay. Well, Lieutenant Sheridan, where were you born?
Was born in a place called Meyer, Iowa.
Okay.
Left there was at about 2 or 3 years old and went to Wisconsin, to Prairie du Chien,
Okay.
Wisconsin. And we lived there all through up until I was through high school. Then I went in nurses training in Dubuque, Iowa at Mercy Hospital and got my RN degree in 1938.
So you've been moving around quite a bit.
And then I worked there for a couple of years and was in only the second one from our part of Iowa to get called in the Army.
Okay.
And the reason I went in through the American, the American, what the heck is it called? Anyway, my supervisor in surgery at the time was the chairman of the I can't think of what that was called, but anyway, the reason I got called in, we all had to join up there with that because she needed nurses for different things that went on in town. And so I was the second one in the whole county to get called in the Army. And I went in for 1 year, as all of us did at that time.
Oh.
And then we said that in case of war, we would have to stay in, which I had to stay in.
It turned out to be a long year.
That's right.
Let's get a little bit of detail about your early life then. You were born in Meyer, Iowa?
Iowa.
Were you born at home?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. Now, was this a farm or a
Well,
or
we
a
lived
town?
on a farm at the time. My dad was not a farmer,
Okay.
and he didn't do so well, so they had to get rid of the farm. And they moved to Wisconsin because my grandmother and my granddad on mother's side lived in Prairie du Chien.
Okay.
They had moved there from Iowa some years before.
Okay.
And,
Well, let's start with your mother. I'll bet she was probably there when you were born, wasn't she?
well, I presume she
Okay.
was.
Well, that's most people say yes. I had one guy that said no, and by the end of the interview, I wasn't sure whether he was kidding or not. So, tell me about your mom. What was her name?
Her name was Amy DeMuth.
Okay.
DeMuth.
Okay.
And she came from a good-sized family, and they lived in Iowa up until they mother and dad moved to Wisconsin. And they lived in Iowa also all that time.
What was she like? How would you describe her to folks?
Well, my dad was one of those setback fellas. He always worked hard, but he was during the Depression. He had to work for what he could get, even if it's only helping a farmer butcher or something. But he never disciplined us. That was my mother's job, and she was a strict disciplinarian. And every time we did something, I seemed to get blamed for it.
Oh.
But she'd go out in the backyard and pick a little thin
switch.
And boy, my hands, I'm sure, were raw most of the time. But I was the one that always got blamed for everything. I guess because I was a little more gregarious than the rest of them. I had an older sister who was just a year and 4 months older than I was. And
what was her name?
her name was Helen Watson when she died. I mean, after she was married. And she was one of those bookie people that never seemed to do anything wrong, and so I was the next one coming up, and I'm the one that got stuck for it. Yeah, right. And
I hate it when I get punished for everything I do wrong.
Well, I mean, I know I was probably causing a lot of the problems, but there were 3 of us girls in a row.
Yeah.
And my other sister, the third one, was 2 years younger. And she was one that always said that she took care of all the babies in the family. So she was one that never did anything wrong. So that's what makes me the guinea pig down in between.
What was her name?
Her name is Joanne,
Okay.
just like
okay.
Johnny. And she's now a nun.
Okay.
So you see, she lived up to her.
What she did, she went the whole 9 yards, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. And she lives in Indiana, in Huntington.
Okay. Was she the one that your niece was named after? Or?
Well, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I never considered
Well, she just might have liked the name, huh?
Well, I mean, folks had a lot of kids to be named, so we all had to get what they could get. And none of us, she would be the only one that would have been named, Joni would have been named after her, as far as I know.
Okay.
But
what about your dad? What was his name?
he's Tony.
Tony.
They call him Tony always. Anthony, of course, but Tony. And he worked for the public health, all the things that were available during the Depression years. And we were poor. There were 9 of us living in a 3-bedroom home for a lot of years.
Holy smokes.
And they always had a big room for the boys. And the one house that we had 2 small bedrooms. And Father John, who's my oldest brother, had one of these rooms. And Sister Joan, who became Sister Joan, had the other one. And then we girls had one room and the boys had one room. And we never did figure out how one of my sisters, where she slept after the last baby was born.
That's a squeeze.
But there were 9 of us kids, and we all lived in that house.
Can you go through all 9 of them? Give me their names and a little something about them.
Helen, as I told you, was the one that never did anything wrong, and she was always the quiet one. And then I came in next, who was always the noisy one. And then Joan was the babysitter, she always called herself. She took care of all the babies. And then Father John was very intelligent. He went through Campion High School for boys, and he became a priest. He's a Jesuit. And Dick was the next one, and he was a little bit less smart. He got through high school, of course, but he flunked out of Campion, so he had to go to public school, which was a good school too, but he finished high school. And he worked for the telephone company for about 30 years as he helped he went around with the fellows that were installing the lines and
Right.
things like that. And then Dolly was the next one, Alice, and she became a nurse, smart as a whip. They wanted her to skip school when she was in 5th grade, and we said no, because you miss something when you skip a grade, and she was too young to skip anyway. But she was a smarty one. She really was smart. And then Dick, or Don went into the Navy about right after the war. And he spent 20 years in the Navy, and it was he was in the Navy fellow that rode with all the dignitaries when they went around the country in the plane. He was the mechanic that went along with them all.
Okay.
And he was another smart fella. He didn't go to college until after he got out of the service. After 20 years in the service, then he went on, got his degree, and that also worked for the government as in public health, I think, or one of the services, until he finished college, and he was just starting to teach when he died. And he died suddenly. We think, they don't know what caused his death. They tried everything, probably a heart attack, but we don't know. And then Neil was also a Navy man, and he just served his time that he had to have during the Korean War. He was wounded a couple of times. He worked as a Navy corpsman, but he was assigned to the Marines. And he so he was right with the fighting area.
We've had a lot of strong comments about the Navy corpsmen.
Yes, they worked hard.
They really
And they all, good many of them became nurses afterwards.
Oh, really?
But Neil didn't. He went on after he got out and got his degree in college, and he went to Oklahoma. And that's where he lived and died.
Okay.
And he died of cancer, cancer anyway, a couple of years ago, just a couple of years ago. And he was already in his 50s, 60s probably by that time. And then Marion was the baby. And she was born in Prairie du Chien. She was born with a heart condition. Was very frail for all her young years. She had to stay out of school a couple of years because of her heart condition. And she kind of outgrew it though. But she went on, went to college and finished her degree. Never taught, although she had a teacher's degree. But she got married and had raised her family and kind of overcome that heart condition until about 3 years ago. She had a severe heart attack, had surgery done, was sick for a long time, but now she's better again. She raised her kids, and she lived in Minnesota, in Winona, Minnesota, well, she still lives there, and is in pretty good health now.
That's quite a story.
So that takes care of the family.
It's a nice-sized family.
It was, and we're all very friendly. Nobody has ever bickered with anybody else. We just all got along, and we go visiting. And I went up until this last year. I went up at least a couple of weeks every year to visit up in Minnesota and just Wisconsin and things.
It seems to me that the larger the family, the more they get along.
Well, I think so too.
I think because they're not allowed the luxury of overindulgence. They only have their little piece in there, and they have their responsibilities to go along with that. Keeps them close.
I told you who all
Get spoiled
the
that way.
smart ones are in the family, and I was one of the smarter ones too.
I would think so.
I took Latin and German in high school in addition to everything else,
Yeah.
where most of them didn't do that.
Yeah, that's. So you really grew up as a child more in Prairie du Chien than in...
Yes, up until I finished high school. I
Okay.
stayed there.
Well, you lived with your grandparents, I take it.
No, we had our own home in.
Okay, you lived near them then.
Well,
But
they
you got-
lived
you got
in
to see
town
them pretty
also.
well.
Yeah, right.
These are your grandparents on your mother's side?
On mother's side,
And what were their names?
Demuth.
Okay. So did you get to see them very often, or?
Oh yeah, we just lived up the road a ways from them.
Yeah. What would you say about them?
Well, I don't know. Grandma died, or Grandpa died after a stroke, and he was kind of paralyzed on one side, and I used to shave him every week. But he'd laugh like that, you know, and he always was a real good disposition,
Yeah.
and they could manage to get him from the chair to his bed, but he wasn't able to walk. Well, that went on for several years, and then Grandma died, after I was in the Army already, or just out of the Army. And she fell one morning on her hot stove and burned her hands badly. And she kind of affected her mentally. And we had to have her move in with us in the house, and it was pretty crowded. We don't realize where everybody settled at that time. But she had to stay with us, and then they moved into her home because they needed the room, and she died just kind of peacefully with a lot of pain all that time. And ornery as all get out. I could handle her. I took care of her, gave her her bath, and took care of her as much as I could, you know. So. But she was a crocodile woman at that time. And she also was a very strict disciplinarian.
Was she?
She raised a big family, and 3 of the kids lived with her in Prairie du Chien until they got married.
You talk about discipline and switches. Neighbors across the street were just good old Tennessee hillbillies, and they had about 6 kids. Well, Howard went down one day to the woods nearby and pulled up a tree and brought it down and stuck it in the front yard because he wanted to have a tree in the front yard. Well, that thing grew and grew and grew, and every time the kids misbehaved, Mom would go out and get a switch and switch the kids. That tree grew up in the most beautiful shape. I mean, it was perfectly pruned from all those switchings that she gave kids. I don't know how the kids turned out, but the tree turned out good.
No, I don't think we had any trees in the backyard, but I know that we had a lot of shrubbery that had nice switches in it.
So what kind of things did the kid do for fun in Prairie du Chien?
Well, there really wasn't. It's amazing. We played stickball in the alley. We played baseball in the alley, and did a lot of running around, and really there wasn't that much to do. Couldn't afford to go to movies. Maybe once a year we'd get to one. Every time the creamery had a special on, we could get ice cream. We had it. At the time when we were young, the folks had to keep goats in the backyard because Alice had an allergy to milk, cow's milk, and so they keep goats. So she lived on goat's milk for a couple of years. But we had a cow down the hills. Prairie du Chien is right on the river, and the hills are right there. And they kept the cow down there and had to go in and milk it every morning and evening so that we had all the butter and cottage cheese and milk we needed when we were growing up, and I guess that's why most of us are pretty healthy. And probably I should have more of it right now.
Who got the cow milking job?
Well, Dad or Mother, whichever one happened to be able to go.
Did any of the boys ever have to milk the cow? Or?
I don't think they ever did. I'm sure they didn't. Well, first, they were young though then, yes. I mean, Father John at the time we had the cow was probably, maybe 8 or 9 years old. And none of us girls ever handle a cow either.
Did you ever go down to the river and swim, or?
Well, that's the only place they had swimming. They had put some sand in one area where that wasn't too dangerous, but it was way too dangerous for us to swim there, so we didn't do much swimming.
Now the river's current's pretty wide.
The current
pretty
is
strong.
wide, yes
down
it
there.
is, and sometimes of the year, like in the spring, it'd be so raging that nobody could go in. But they built a swimming pool in Prairie du Chien about the same, right after I went in nurses training.
Yeah.
So I never got any advantage for it. But we used to have a skating rink in the winter. They flooded an area that became the post office area. But it was a big open field at that time, and they flooded it every year, and we did a lot of ice skating.
That'd be
And
great.
roller skating. We used to roller skate to high school.
Oh, really?
Well, St. Mary's was a long way from our house, like a mile.
Right.
And it was all sidewalk all the way down. And we used to, every so often, a whole bunch of us that went to that school would decide to roller skate that day.
That
But
sounds.
it was an all-girls school,
Right.
St. Mary's.
Well, it seems to me like it'd be pretty hilly in Prairie du Chien. Was it
Chile?
hilly, like it would
Oh,
be hard?
no, the town itself was level.
Oh, is it?
The hill went right up at the end of town.
Oh, okay. A lot of times near a river, it's pretty hilly.
Yeah, well,
Big
it
hard
is,
skate.
but it's all the way along there. There's a big hill on both Iowa side and the Wisconsin side. But the towns themselves were on the level. Of
Now,
course,
the
Prairie isn't a big town either.
the girls went to St. Mary's. Where'd the boys go?
Campion, except when they flunked out. Neil flunked out only because he was more interested in sports. He made the football season in his freshman year at Campion, but he didn't do any studying, and so he had to go to the public school too.
So
Father John and Don were the only ones that went to Campion.
where was Campion in relation to St. Mary's?
Well, about a mile farther south.
Okay.
We were a mile from school, and Campion was about 2 miles from
And you always walked or skated?
We always walked or rode a bicycle. So one day we decided to bicycle down. The boys that went to Campion usually could hitchhike and get a ride down to school. I don't think they walked too many times. At least that's what Father John tells me now, that they almost always, or one of the boys had a car, or their dad took them or something. But there weren't that many boys from Prairie du Chien that went to Campion. They couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford it either, but for some reason or other, they made the expenses. I think they worked it out or something. I don't remember that. We girls all had to work for our education. We couldn't afford it at St. Mary's either. And at that time, it was cheap. Probably $50 a year.
Probably.
Yeah.
What kind of work did you do to?
Oh, clean. My job was always to clean the stairs. Oh, brush and the waste bin. I did more cleaning, but then during the summer I worked there too, usually in the dining room, because they had summer school for the nuns then. So I mean, we did what we could to help as much as we could.
Can you remember some of the teachers that you had at St. Mary's?
The only one I can remember is Sister Hester. And she was an English teacher, and apparently at the time she wasn't much older than we were, because she lived until, well, I don't think she's been dead over a couple of years, and I'm 86, so she must have been not too many years younger than I was. But she was one of those. She was a French teacher, and she also taught English, and I can't remember any of the other names.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's been a lot of years. I finished high school in 1935.
How were they in general? Were they pretty strict, or?
Yes, they were all pretty good. Those were Notre Dame nuns, and Notre Dame nuns are only teachers, and they're good teachers. And their mother house in Milwaukee, is kind of known. The college is kind of known to be pretty good.
Yes.
But no, I got along with them all. My Latin teacher, we argued a little bit in my German class. The teacher was kind of young too, and one day she'd tell us something, next day she'd contradict herself, and who would speak up and say, "Hey, you said that yesterday."
Oh, yeah.
So, we got into a few arguments that way, but I managed to get through 2 years of it. Didn't learn anything as far as using it now, but it helped with.
Did you get to know the rulers pretty good, or did they use the rulers on your?
We never did, as far as I know. I remember one gal used an eraser from the board and slapped somebody's hand with it, but I can't remember any discipline as far as the things go. But we were sent to the principal's office a few times to argue something out, but actually it wasn't too bad. I enjoyed my high school.
What were your favorite subjects in school?
Well, I liked them all. I was good in sciences, and Latin was the one I worked the hardest at, and I'd be still getting through Virgil on my way to school in the morning up until midnight the night before, and on the way to school the next day. That was a hard subject for me. I guess I wasn't made to be a linguist. I can't learn Spanish either when I've lived down here long enough.
When you were in school, did you know what you wanted to do?
Yes, when I started high school, I was going to be a nurse.
What influenced you that way?
Well, an aunt of mine, I helped her get ready to go into nurses training, and she went to St. Mary's in Milwaukee. And I helped her all that summer getting her name tags made and all this stuff and packing. And right then I decided I was going to be a nurse. But in those days, there wasn't much we could flying around here. There's nothing very much that you could do except teaching and nursing, and I didn't think I wanted ever to be a teacher, but I was going to be a nurse, and I became one. I had to stay out 1 year after high school before I could go in training, though. I was too young.
Oh. Yeah, you graduated high school about 1935, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. And there was quite a period of time there, about 6 years before the war started, so what did you do during that time?
3 years of training, and I worked 2 years at the hospital. And
I'm sorry, where did you do your training?
in Dubuque, Iowa,
Dubuque? Okay.
in Mercy Hospital.
Okay.
It no longer has a nursing school, but they have, they have LPNs, I think they train. And then I was working 2 years when I got called into the Army.
You remember some of your instructors from nursing school?
Sister Mark is the only one I can think of by name. Sister Pauline was our surgery nurse,
Right.
and I spent a lot of time in surgery, but I remember her name, and she was a stinker. Our nursing home was right here.
Right.
And the hospital was here, and the surgery was right up there. And we never could figure out how come we always got called in for smoking. But we'd go up on the roof of our house and get behind the little house, where we walked in. And there was surgery, was right there, and she could see us from there. And we know she was the one that told on us every time. But every other month, our class had to stay on campus.
Yeah.
And of course, we could always find some place to have a cigarette if we had to. And then the next month they'd call us in. Now you didn't smoke for a month, can't you stop? And we'd say sure. And of course, get caught again. We were kind of an active class anyway, more so than a lot of them. We stayed from work one morning because we wanted a smoking room. The new kids coming in were given a room where they could have a smoker, but we weren't allowed in there, and we were seniors, and they wouldn't give us a place, so we stayed home from work one morning, a whole bunch of us, and of course the chaplain came in and talked to us, and we had to go back to work. I tell you, I was with a group that was ornery too.
I reckon.
But we were all good nurses,
Yes.
really good nurses.
The ornery ones tend to be the best ones because they're aggressive and
I think so.
they do what you have to do.
Yeah, we worked harder than all the rest of them too that
Yeah.
was coming up.
You can't be passive and be a nurse.
No, you can't. The only funny thing that happened to me when I worked in surgery, when I was in surgery and training, and I went down, had a date, was downtown, and we were coming up kind of late, and you had to be in at a certain time. And I was with a fellow that rode a motorcycle. It's the only time I ever rode on a motorcycle. We were coming up the hill, and the cops stopped us. And of course, now I was working in surgery at the time.
Right.
And my excuse was we were hurrying to get me back because I was called for an emergency op. And darn it, that cop didn't come up to the hospital. By the time we got up there, he was parked there, and he went in, talked to the gal at the switchboard, and apparently there was an operation going to start, and I got saved from the campus. Those are things that you think of when you stop and think of what went on during those years.
You dodged one there, didn't you?
I dodged one there, yeah.
That's funny.
But there were two hospitals in Dubuque. Finley Hospital was the other one. And when I got through, Finley is where I worked for 2 years, and I worked in surgery there. And the only reason I decided that I could go into the Army when they gave me my notice was the fact that they were going to build a new surgery, and it would take a year. So I thought, well, I'll get my year in and then go into the new surgery.
Right.
Well, that year, the two surgeries were built after I left. So it took a while before I got out.
What part of nursing did you like?
Well, I
in the
liked
early
all
days?
of it, except I didn't like pediatrics.
Okay.
And I we didn't have a peds in our nursing school. They had a regular children's hospital separate from our hospital. And when I got out, and I did a lot of part-time nursing and sub-nursing, short days, they'd put me on a different floor when I'd work, and I'd work like 2 nights a week when I got out of the Army. Because I was raising my kids then, and every so often they'd stick me in peds, and I didn't like it, but mainly because I had kids of that age bracket, and I didn't want to know what could happen to them, I guess. But otherwise, I liked everything. I ended up, believe it or not, as a school nurse. And I had never had any of that experience before, but our college in town, College of St. Scholastica, was always a girls' college until they went co-ed, and I helped set up the health service when they went co-ed. So I worked for 5 years in the health service there, and I enjoyed that. These young kids, and I had kids my one daughter had just finished college there before I worked that year. but I knew the nuns, so that's why they called on me. But how about that? I had every kind of nursing there was otherwise. There wasn't, I spent time in the psych department in the Army for like 6 months, and of course injuries and all those things. I had everything. When I got out of the Army, believe it or not, the hospital in Prairie had a flu epidemic in the town, and they had nobody to work at the hospital. So they called me, and I went in to work, and I thought, well, I'll work nights because it'd be less noisy, and I mean, not so much traffic. And 2 OBs came in that night, and I hadn't seen a pregnant woman for 5 years.
Oh boy.
And by golly, I went in surgery, and I found out what their packs were, and where it was, and where things were, and we got through 2 deliveries that night.
How about that is a miraculous thing. I've seen 2 deliveries. My wife's these last two children we've had, and it is really neat. It's really neat to watch a birth.
Well, we didn't have anybody to watch me because they didn't do those things in my days.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any of my kids being born either. But I know what it is. I had to time them many times when they were in, ready for surgery. We didn't have anybody else, any supervisor that would time OBs coming in when I was in training. And if you got that service, that was up to you. And I could put my finger up there just as well as the next one. And we used to call the doctor, he'd get there just 2 minutes before that baby's head would come out. We were that good at the time.
That's pretty good.
Yes, it was.
That's very good. Where were you when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Well, I was sitting on our porch in Vancouver, Washington, playing bridge, and somebody came in and it said that they just heard over the air that Pearl Harbor was attacked. And then, of course, we knew right then we weren't going to be getting out, and we were planning already getting out in like 3 months. You get out a month ahead of time.
Right.
From our year in about 3 months, and of course we knew we weren't going to get out then anymore.
Yeah, how'd you wind up getting to Vancouver?
How I got there?
Yeah, we last had you in.
Well, I went in the Army in Jefferson Barracks.
Oh, so you joined the Army before the war?
From April before.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I was stationed out in Vancouver.
All right. All right. So you joined the Army, and where'd you first go in?
Jefferson Barracks in St. Louis.
Okay.
It was a staging area for all of us, although we worked there about 3 months. And then groups of 10 were being sent overseas in turn, and I was in the last 10 that didn't get overseas, and I got sent out to Vancouver, Washington.
Okay. Now, this is before the war. Why were they sending them overseas at this point?
Well, they was being sent to the Philippines, and 10 at a time, and I knew 2 of the girls that were in the prison camp over there, sent us to Mass for the 4 years or whatever it was. In fact, we outfitted them to come back to the States when the war was over. Somebody would have a top, and somebody else would have underwear, or somebody else would have that. We outfitted these 2 girls.
Okay. Well, go ahead and stop now and change out the tape. 40025, tape number 2. You went into Jefferson Barracks, and then where did you go from there? You went on out to Washington from there? Vancouver.
Washington.
And did you go through some kind of training, military training initially?
Well, we never did actually.
Okay.
But one time while we were at Vancouver, we'd been there maybe a year or so already, and they decided we needed basic training. So they assigned a sergeant for us, and he was trying to get us to march down this road.
Yeah.
And nurses come in all sizes, tall and skinny, fat and short, and nobody had a foot space the same size. And he gave up after one day. So that's the only basic training we had.
That was it, huh?
That was it. But we went right to work in the hospital there. It was a general hospital, and we were right in connection with the Vancouver barracks, which had was a staging area for the infantry.
Okay.
So we could go to, we had dances with them, and we played pool in their pool hall, and Vancouver was a small town at that time, and then of course all the boat yards moved in there, and of course it got pretty hectic. And it was right across the Columbia River from Portland,
Okay.
so we got to Portland frequently. And
Sound like a nice area,
it is a nice area.
especially for a young nurse just starting out.
Well, the camp right next door.
Yeah, that didn't hurt. Never lonely, were you?
No, could always get us a date if we wanted it.
So you were in Vancouver when the war started, and you figured out pretty quick that we're going to be in here for a year. It's going to be longer.
Actually, we were a whole year assigned to an overseas unit for a whole year, and we couldn't go out of the area.
Ah,
And it took all that time. We were supposed to have gone to New Orleans to ship out to go to wherever.
right.
And as it turned out, they shipped us down to San Francisco, and we went out, and we were supposed to join a boat crew that would bring patients back and forth.
Okay.
And there was a group of nurses on this ship, and so they assigned us to the field hospital that would be based in New Guinea. And we were there for a year and a half, maybe.
So,
and
so your
then
first stop was New Guinea.
New
out
Guinea.
there.
And
And
then-
what did you think of the ocean? I mean, being out there, a lot bigger than the Mississippi.
Well, the ocean was blue, and there were a lot of coral underneath, and
Yeah.
we got taken out by the Navy several times to look at coral,
Yeah.
just go down and look underneath, and had a lot of.
Was the crossing pretty decent?
Well, it
choppy?
was good, although we were in a convoy going
Okay.
over, and our group of us found a floating mine right among the ships.
Ooh.
And so we notified our captain, and he called, and apparently they exploded it some way. But it was we nurses that saw it,
Huh.
because we had nothing else to do but stand on the rail watching it. We went down to Australia first, and our doctors went ashore and to learn malaria control, but we had to stay aboard the ship. But we were down there over Christmas, and they celebrated Christmas a day earlier, because otherwise it would have been on the day, would have been, well,
Because the international date line you crossed
Yeah,
over.
that's
Okay.
right, that's
Right,
what it was.
yeah.
And so we celebrated a day early.
Yeah.
And they had canned turkey and all the fixings.
So-
And then we went into New Guinea,
Whereabouts in Australia did you land?
Townsend.
Townsend, okay.
And then 2 years later, I was given a 2-week vacation in Australia. Two of us we were all supposed to have taken turns, but two of us were sent down first. But we had been in the Army the longest.
Right.
And we were down for a 2 weeks vacation in Sydney, and flew down with the same crew that brought us back, that spent the 2 weeks down there too, from New Guinea. So,
So you went to New Guinea from Australia,
yeah.
and what were the conditions in New Guinea?
Well, a lot of mosquitoes, a lot of snakes. We were in the staging area at Milne Bay first, and then we just had nothing to do. We just had to get acclimated to the climate,
Okay.
and we had to have screens on our cots and for malaria.
Was there any fighting going on the island while you were there?
Not at the Milne Bay. The fighting had been earlier,
Okay.
and there were still a lot of troops there.
So this would have been what, sometime in 1942, 43 maybe?
In early 43.
Early 43, okay.
And then we were assigned to the First Field Hospital and were sent up to Finchhaven. And Finchhaven was almost a day's flight, or several hours flight up there from Milne Bay. And we joined our unit, our hospital, and our hospital had come up with the fighting group from Brisbane, and then into New Guinea, and all the way up to the rough mountains and stuff, up to where we joined them. And now they had been working, taking care of casualties for 2 years almost. And so they were just we were just two more hands each one. And we got all the wounded that would come in from up in there then. And then we were sent into the Philippines from Finchhaven. I don't know, we were in Finchhaven maybe several months. And we went in, we were to land 4 days after the invasion of the Americans when they went back into the Philippines at Lazy Bay. And but a big storm came up and nothing moved, so we had to stay another couple of days in the harbor on the ship. But we were in 7 days after the landing of the troops in New Guinea, so we were the first ones
Pretty quick.
into the Philippines.
A lot of people don't realize how heavy the fighting was in the Philippines to retake the
yeah.
Philippines. It was horrible.
We landed in the Gulf through a tornado or hurricane, I guess they called them, and our ship was going like this and like this, and they had put up temporary bunks on the back deck,
Right.
so it was out in the open. It just boarded up, and so we had to stay inside, no place to sit down, no place for anything. We had to stand up or sit on the floor in the thing for all night, going like this and like this. The water would come slashing in, and then it would go out, and that happened all night. Next morning was beautiful weather. Sun was out, and the natives came out in little boats to meet us, the ship, and then we landed. But that was right after they had this battle of the Lady Gulf. And of course there was broken ships along the shore. And we were set up in a big church that had been a cathedral. And our hospital was set up in there. And the fighting was going just a little bit beyond, away from there, but on Leyte. And
Would you say you were within 10 miles of the fighting? Would that be a fair estimate?
Less than that, probably. Okay. We got strafed one day.
Did you?
A plane came down over the hospital entrance, and of course the walls of the hospital were thick, so it didn't damage the hospital, but several people were injured right outside of the hospital. One lady had her legs blown off right outside the door.
Oh, gee.
But we had the cots were all set up where normally there would have been benches in there for church.
Right.
It was set up, and the priest that had been there all through the Japs invasion had quarters up above somewhere in the church, and the fellow that from our unit that was the postman, he's the one that got the mail and stuff. He and I went up and were invited up to the priest's house one night to drink sake.
Sake.
And it was awful tasting stuff,
Yeah.
but this priest had it, and he insisted on us
Yeah.
having some. So we tasted it, and that's all. But we were there then, set up there. We were living in a Filipino home. They had put a curtain between one section of it, and we had our bunks were one right after another. There were only 10 of us nurses from this unit, and we were lined up like this, and we'd have our screening up at night, screening in our bunks, and try to write letters, and we'd try to have a candle going, or not a candle, but a flashlight.
Right.
And the gal that had been on Corregidor and got out joined our unit there because she didn't want to come back to the States. And she'd say, "Douse those lights!" all the time was yelling at us. And here we were innocent, you know, we didn't know anything. But before we left that house, the people that lived there on the other side of the curtain had this pet pig. They had it used to sneak into our area,
Right.
and we pushed it back. Well, they had us over for a meal before we left, and we had pork, and we know darn well they butchered that
it's
pet pig.
Oh, boy.
But we had the bomb buckets in the corner for a toilet,
Huh.
and we had 2 of those. It's right outside of our sleeping area.
Right.
And we put in for a latrine. So they built one for us. The fellows built one up the road about a block.
Yeah.
And we had to get a guard to walk up there with us if we had to get up at night.
Yeah.
And so we used that latrine then until we could get out of there.
Doesn't sound like the first, 5-star hotel by any means.
Well, it certainly wasn't.
But compared to what the guys up in the hills had, that was probably pretty good.
That's a lot better, yeah, right.
You say you had a group of about 10 nurses you were working
10
with.
nurses and 10 doctors
Can
was
you-
our unit.
Can you remember any of them? Know something about it, any of them?
Well, the one of them dated our head nurse all the while we were overseas. And otherwise, no, really, they were all good surgeons and all good men and could put through a lot of work, and they all played bridge. So every time 4 people were off duty, we played bridge. Did that all through New Guinea, too. But we were with the same group the whole time.
Who were some of the nurses you served with?
Well, I don't remember their names.
I just wondered if some you might remember.
Well, 4 or 5 of them was with me even in Jefferson Barracks already. We went overseas together, and then we joined a group that had been in Hawaii when we got over in New Guinea. I mean, names don't mean a lot to me. I corresponded with a bunch of them until 20 years ago, and just at Christmas time. You just kind of forget them. 2 of them were from Texas, however. I can't remember their names either.
Remember any interesting stories from when you were in the Philippines?
Well, my roommate developed dengue,
Oh,
and she was laid up for quite a while. And a couple of them were dating doctors. We had awfully good corpsmen. They were just top men. And one fellow had been a professional gambler before the war, and the word went around that he used to send $1,000 home every month.
Wow.
They played poker apparently as soon as they got their checks or their money. And of course we didn't draw very much. We had allotments made out to go back, so it went to our bank accounts or parents or something. But I saved enough for my $28 a month that I took as cash to go down to Australia on leave for those 2 weeks, and you had to have at least $100 to go, and I had at least that much. But when I got out of the Army, I had a nice little check in the bank,
That's good.
which didn't hurt.
That's smart. I mean, you didn't need it over there.
No, it didn't. There wasn't anything you could get. Even Kotex was, they sent you dried up thin things that were so full of, they're so dry that they scratch us, you know. They didn't carry anything, so we had to write home for what we needed in that respect. And of course it came a month later. But we managed to get by, and everybody was in a good mood all the time. We never had any bickering, and the corpsmen were just like brothers and good friends, and the doctors the same way. So it was kind of a pleasant experience, although I'd hate to have to do it over again.
You must have seen a few hard cases in the patients.
Oh, yeah.
Was there any that stood out to you, any incidents that were...
Well, we had a couple that became paraplegics, ended up as paraplegics, but most of them were just injuries from the line, bullet wounds and things like that. We used penicillin routinely. They'd go on a tray in the morning, and everybody, all the needles would be ready, and everybody got penicillin. And that was before they had it in the States, you know.
Right.
But we had to use it there. But then things quieted down. We moved to another area in New Guinea from the original hospital, and where the fighting was going on, and we could see the flashes of the big guns.
This is still in the Philippines?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
still on Leyte. I never got off of Leyte until the war was over.
How long were the surgeries? Did you ever have any surgeries that just went on for hours and hours?
Oh, I don't really know. I never worked in surgery when I was there. We had one nurse that was a scrub nurse, and the head nurse helped. She circulated. I imagine they did, because we had the patients.
Yeah. It would seem to me that they would come in groups, maybe like a battle would be fought.
Oh, like
and once they
100 of
come in-
them would come in at once.
Wow.
One night we had a whole church full of people. The beds were all filled. And we had to put them on cots between the beds because we got 100 people in.
Wow.
Another night during the night didn't have anything to do right that moment. I stood outside and I was talking to a fellow that was on his feet. He had burns on his face, so he was pretty well covered. I couldn't see what he looked like. I was talking to him. I found out he was a full-blooded Cherokee from Wyoming or someplace, and very interesting fella.
Not bad.
And that's the way, we talked to the patients and learned a lot like that. By the way, my picture showed up in the Extension magazine. Now that was a Catholic magazine that all the Catholic families were subscribing to, including my mother. And all of a sudden she wrote back and told me my picture was in the Extension magazine. She recognized the picture. There wasn't any write-up. I mean, my name wasn't. But that was some of the photographers that showed up in this hospital and were taking pictures, and just happened to get me standing at a little, what was my desk, was a little side chapel. And there was the Blessed Virgin's big statue there, and I'm working here at the thing and face forward. So, things like that you think of you don't expect to find out anything.
No, you sure wouldn't. You sure wouldn't.
But it was a pleasant experience, all told, even though we worked hard.
How did you treat the burn victims?
Well, a lot of them got shipped back to the States. We really didn't have the facilities to take care of them. They gave them first aid what they could, and pack them, put the ointment or something on them, and then shipped them back to the States.
I met a nurse who used something called Ludwig solution on the burns. It was glycerin and vinegar.
Well, that sounds right, yeah.
She said there would be hardly any scars when you took the bandages off.
Well, see, that would have been done back in the States.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have had the facilities for that. But New Guinea, a good share of our patients were diarrheas.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
So much
a
for
lot
tropical paradise, huh?
Yeah, right.
Ever have to deal with rats, or you have any trouble with those?
No, I don't think so.
Some of those islands are pretty.
They probably ate them over there.
What do you think about the Filipino people?
I liked the ones I met. We did move out of this particular house to another one where we found out the other house had a bathroom.
Yeah.
So we moved in there, and the bathroom was a room off of the bedroom with slats on the floor, and you just squatted there. Well, that didn't last. That's when we put in for a latrine.
Yeah.
You had to walk up the road. No kidding. And right next to this, where it dropped down, was where they just made their meals. Well, I tell you, we all became constipated right then until we could get out.
That's funny. So, when the war ended, did you hear about the atomic bomb?
Well, we heard about it, but we didn't get much information at any time about any of the war. We knew nothing about what was going on in Europe. And we'd hear where they'd send some people back from other areas.
Right.
They told us about what was going on in the Philippines.
Right.
But we never did hear anything from Europe. The night that the war was over, when they decided they were quitting, we had a party in our recreation room, and we were set up at that time right on the ocean. Beautiful swimming there, and somebody came from the headquarters, which was set up not too far from us, told us the war was over. And all of a sudden, every male in the room, all the officers took off.
Yeah.
They came back with bottles of booze that they had been hoarding. And everybody I think we all got drunk. But anyway, we ended up going swimming in the nude, most of us, because we didn't have anything. We were at a party, Oh, I
But
tell
they've
you.
been hoarding the bottles for a good while.
They were hoarding them
For
for
that.
like 5 years, yes. But they all seem to have had something.
Did you ever treat any Japanese?
Yes, when the war was over, I was settled, or we were sent down to Mindanao,
Okay.
which was another island where the monkeys have no tails.
Philippines.
And we were set up in a school, and each classroom was a separate floor, a ward. And I was right next to the Japanese, where some Filipino nurses were taking care of Jap patients, and I was right next to it. And about the second day that we were there, 2 Japs got killed overnight. In fact, when the nurse, supposedly the nurse, when it was down getting her report, either the some Filipinos went in and killed them, or the nurses did before they went down.
Oh, really?
2 of them were dead when they went down. But I was fortunate enough to go into a Japanese ward. Our unit took care of Jap patients through all of New Guinea and the Philippines. They had a separate tent for them. And we had Lou Gehrig, not Lou Gehrig, one of the fellows from Hollywood.
Yeah. One of the baseball players?
No, not a baseball
Okay.
player. That was Lou Gehrig. No.
Oh,
Lou Aries
okay.
was the nurse taking care of the Jap patients. He was somebody that couldn't, said he couldn't fight, and so they assigned him to take care of that. And he's the only one that ever worked in there. But the doctor on my floor at that time had to go in to see some of the patients, and he asked me to go along. So I went into that floor, and while he checked some wounds that they was treating, he showed me how much it had healed from each side. I'm the only one that got to do that. So I did see them. But all the patients would be sitting up in bed. Most of them had ulcerated feet or legs is what they were there for. And they were sitting up there, and they bowed, and we came in. I think we were dignitaries. I also was the only one that ever got to see, as I said, I'm gregarious,
Right.
And they had, in New Guinea at one point, they had a little tent put up. It was for children of New Guinea natives. And there were a couple, 2 or 3 in there with their mothers. And the doctor I was working with at that time took me in there with them. And I'm the only one that ever saw that, too, the New Guinea women. I had taken a picture of one in a boat taking off, a little canoe with 2 people in it. One of them was a woman. And I took a picture and I sent it back home. And my mother, the woman was bare, of course, and my mother, with ink, filled in her chest area. I saw it when I got home. Funny things, went on, but actually they're not nothing to do with history.
Or your personal history.
Personal.
And they really are. I mean, history's not made up of giant events. It's made up of the stories of people getting together to make that giant event.
Sure.
So you got the word that it was time to come home. Did you come home from the Philippines, or did you go somewhere else?
From the Philippines, no. We went back from Mindanao back to Leyte,
Okay.
and we had to wait for a month there because there was a bad storm and fighting in Formosa.
Okay.
And that was, another island, and we had to wait for transportation until they could send it back. So we had to wait another month. So I was on Leyte for the first year anniversary
Okay.
of our landing there. So all but about 3 months of it was actually on Leyte. They always promised us that they would let us get to Manila, but we never got there. But we came back on a ship that during peacetime had been used as take pleasures.
Luxury liner?
Yeah. And the Rodman was the name of it. We came back in record time.
Yeah.
Landed in San Francisco, and they put us aboard a train right away, and we went to Des Moines, Iowa. There were 250 nurses aboard, and all women, but they had a couple of lieutenants for kind of the train things, but young lieutenants, and we get to Omaha, and we weren't allowed to get off of the train. But we get to Omaha, and of course that's the first stop, and we wanted to get into the airport to buy something. Of course,
Right.
none of us had full uniforms, naturally,
Right.
and those little lieutenants wouldn't let us off.
Yeah.
And boy, 250 nurses just mowed them down right now, and we went into the deep end. And but then we were separated at Fort Des Moines, where the WACs originally started. And they had been there for the whole time for their training purposes, and they didn't know much about what we had to have done. So, but we got separated finally, and I was in the first group of 10 to be separated. Just happened that my name was listed in the first 10, so I was home for Christmas that year.
That's great.
Yeah.
Glad to be home.
Oh, heck yes.
It was Christmas of '45, right?
That was 45, yeah. I was separated from actually with my terminal leave, I got out in April of 46. So I had a little leave time.
So I know you were married.
I was married a year after I got out.
Okay, you met your husband. What's your husband's name?
Gerald Sheridan.
And where'd you meet him?
Well, actually, we both worked at Camp McCoy. I was sent up to help out because they were shortly after. My uncle was the employment agent for the government, and he was having trouble getting people to keep working. They were always calling in sick. So I was sent down to check on these people that called in sick. So I had my office, and every morning I get the phone call of those that were staying home because they were sick, and I had to get a driver, and we went out and visited them. I had a lovely time. I had a driver and a federal car, a government car, and went to all the little towns visiting these people, writing a little note with what was up, and I guess we cut down a lot of the absenteeism.
Yeah.
So but that's where we met. He was discharged from the Navy about a year before that for health purposes. And so they sent him down from Duluth to work at Camp McCoy because when they were discharged, medical reasons, they had to work for the government in some way. So they sent him down to Camp McCoy, and he was the train master. He would meet all the trains for the separation center and get them routed in the right direction. And I just met him there, I guess.
Where'd you go on your first date?
Well, we didn't actually. There were little towns over Sparta,
Oh, yeah.
and those towns were there, and we'd go to some place to have a beer in the evening or something.
How long did it take you to figure out that he was the one?
Well, not. I don't know. He was a nice-looking fellow, and he was kind of on the short side, and could speak well. He was a twin. His twin wasn't there, but I met his twin, and his twin looked exactly like him. And we went out with drinking one evening, and they cooked this up. They switched ties, is what they used to do in high school. And I was hanging on to the wrong one, going out to the car. Of course, they got a kick out of that.
I think you finally found your ornery match there.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
So did you propose to him, or did he propose to you?
Well, I don't know. It was just one of those, when should we get married type of
Okay.
thing.
You want to get married? Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard so many of them like
We were
that.
both out in California at that time.
Okay.
He was out there for schooling, and I was out working for the vets.
And how long were you married?
Well, we missed our 50th anniversary by 4 months.
Wow.
So that was a long lot of years, too.
Sorry you had to lose him.
Well, yeah.
Sort of get attached after that long a time.
Well, he had an easy death, though. He drove the night that he died. He had to go into the hospital to have some fluid removed from his chest area. And while they were thickening his blood, because he had been on blood thinners for a long time, he just died while they were giving him some plasma or something.
Oh, that's a good way to go. It sure beats the
It
heck
is.
out of.
We had just
Long
left,
hours.
my oldest daughter was down with me at the time, and we had just left the hospital. We told him we would go to call the kids to tell him that he was in and that he, his condition. And he said, and I know he knew he was going to die, because he said, just tell him how much I love them.
Oh,
And you wouldn't think of
Wow.
that, saying that otherwise.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure. And we just got home and had made the phone calls, and they called me from the hospital that he was dying. And they said, of course, by the time we got there, he was dead.
wow. It is something how some people seem to know when
I
it's their
think
time.
he did, yeah.
And I've always kind of wondered about that. Some people don't seem to really make much of a deal over it. Others just they know that this is the time, and it is.
But he was, in good mood and everything when we left.
We can't ask for much more than that.
No, you sure can't.
Isn't that great? I mean, you hate to lose them, but isn't that a wonderful way for it to happen?
Mhm.
Now, I know you have children,
I have 4 kids.
4 kids, their names and a little something about them.
Well, Mary Ann's a nurse. She put in 20 years in the Army Nurse Corps. We got out a couple years ago. She works for the Veterans Hospital in Washington, D.C. as a civilian. She's been there since she got out. And she comes and visits me real often. She bought my mobile home down in the valley after I left there. And she'll retire in a couple of years, and then she can stay down there or go back and forth, I suppose. And Bob lives in Arlington. He's married. His wife had a child before they were married, so with somebody else. And that child just now produced a son, so Bob is the granddad. He adopted the kid. And he's what do you call it? One that goes around sprays for bugs.
Oh, like Kimlon or True Green or something like that.
Well, he's got his own.
Exterminator.
Yeah, he has his own business.
Okay.
Lived. What's that?
Don't go, man.
Oh, and they just bought their home now. They rented it for several years, and he has a swimming pool in the backyard. Nice big pool, and we see him real often. And his wife takes care of all the calls coming in, and she takes care of his office.
Okay. Well, let's stop here. Throw in another. We've got Bob. Now we have 2 more.
Oh, and then Patty lives in Duluth. She lives in our old house there. She's married and has a son, Billy. And Billy is now out of high school, and he lives with a couple other boys in town. He works. Hopefully, he got out of high school a year ago, and he said he was going to stay out before he thought of anything else. And that's what he's been working right along. And Her husband is, well, he was from Canada, and he was an engineer, but they couldn't join the union in the States. They wouldn't accept him. Of course, there's so many of them out of employment up in the Duluth area anyway. So he's been doing odd jobs wherever he could, and apparently makes enough money to help them out. And she works for the public health department, and likes it, and has worked for them for about 12, 13 years now. And she's been out of high school several years, so she's doing all right. And then Janet is the one who lives here in town. She lives not too far from here. And she is divorced, and she had one child with the first husband, and he's now remarried, and she had two more kids. Oh, she had the first one. The first one with first husband, and this other, the fellow that she was married to, they had two, and she's divorced now, and the one girl, the oldest girl that was born before earlier, just now made her a grandmother, and she's got two kids now. The first one was a Down syndrome. But the child is real active, can crawl faster than the average one can walk, and she doesn't talk, and she doesn't walk all the time. She can get up in the middle of the floor and walk a few steps if nobody's watching her, and then she goes down. But she's getting there, and they'll both be walking, and she'll be walking and talking before another year is up, probably. And she's a little over 2 years old now. And the baby was just born a week ago on Wednesday, and it's a boy, and he's named for his dad, Eric, and he's a darling. He was a much bigger baby than the first one. He's over 8 pounds, and I saw him the other night for the first time. And
That's nice to still have family around.
So I see them, of course, often. They meet for breakfast after church on Sunday. I go to St. Pius every Sunday with Janet picks me up and her girls, and her the second youngest now just finished high school, and she has an apartment not too far away either, and she works for a fellow that takes care of animals, a veteran, and she likes that, and she hopes that in another year she can, or next spring, to go into veterinary school if they can afford it.
Isn't it fun to watch young people just starting out in life and think back to when you were that time and how far you've come, and just kind of wonder what's going to happen to them.
And for some reason or other, most of these kids, even though their parents can't afford to get to college for some way or other, and I'm sure she will, because she was real smart. And then my daughter Janet does work. She works for some kind of place where they make the setups for putting in kitchens. And it's factory type of work, and she's in the office there, and she just likes it. Good computer gal, and she makes enough just to live on. She can't save any money, but and her husband doesn't. Her former husband never sends her anything, and so she has it rough. But she took me in for so many months after surgery that I just can't help but appreciate her.
Well, you've been blessed in a lot of ways. You had a great early family. I mean, your kids seem to be pretty decent folks.
I think I've been blessed very much, yes.
And what,
And none of our kids are fighting either, so that helps.
how did what do you think you got out of your time in the Army?
Well, I got a good experience as far as work goes, how to do things, and how to get along with people, different people all the time. And I'm kind of on the quiet side when it comes to worrying about things. I kind of set back. And I think I learned a lot of that from the Army. Made a lot of friends, even though I don't have many of them anymore.
A lot of interesting experiences.
But a lot of good experience.
You got to work with some good people, didn't you?
Yes,
Really fine people.
all the time, yes. I never worked as in the hospitals here, of course. I haven't been here that long, but I'm long retired.
Here you are,
Retired.
you have a nice apartment. I'll bet you have a bathroom in this place too.
A real nice one. You want to use
You
it?
don't have to go out to the slats or anything out back, or?
No.
No, that's, that's a good place.
Bedroom, bath. What I'm looking for is a dresser. I don't have a dresser. I have those little portable
Yeah.
containers, but they've got a lot to be desired.
Can imagine.
So I have to go out. One of these days I gotta get out and get a dresser.
Can you think of
But
any
outside of that, we had to furnish our place when we moved in here.
Looks fine to me.
But everything is clean always, and we get all our meals furnished, and the cleaning lady comes in once a week, and she'll do the bed linen and make the bed. There isn't anything you really need anymore after that.
Right. That's true.
My TV, and I got books to read, to listen to, and my eyes aren't improving any, but I can read big print books. I got a whole bunch of them. I subscribed for 'em not too long ago, and I've always been a reader, so that I strain sometimes to see what I'm reading, but I can do it. That's why I have this light here.
Right. See,
I couldn't see it otherwise.
maybe have all these young, good-looking guys coming in to see you, like us.
Well, that's an ad. That's a plus.
That's a heck of a deal, isn't it?
It sure is.
Well, we always give our veterans a chance to say a few words for posterity. You got any personal words of wisdom or philosophy you'd like to share with folks?
Well, I'd like to think that the young people today aren't going to shed the idea of going into the service because there's war going on. Because not everybody has to get into the fighting, but somebody has to do it. And I just hope that the young people will keep that in mind. My own son was a draft divider. He got called in, first one from his class when they were still having to sign in, when they
Yeah.
got to be 18. First one in his class to get called in. But they had a priest that was anti-war, and that's what he taught them, how to evade it and stuff. Well, he got called in, he went down for his physical, and when they asked him to step forward to swear that he would join, go in, he stepped back.
Yeah.
Spent 6 months in the federal pen,
Oh,
but Nixon, well, he was among the group that Nixon absolved of the crime, and so he still has to put it on anything where he applies for a job or anything. He has to write that he had been in prison. But he was in a federal pen for 6 months. Of course, he knew a lot of fellows that were in there too. But he's a good guy. He really is.
there's something to be said for a fellow that sticks to his beliefs.
Yeah, but that was, I blame that priest that conned them into it, because after all, here he had a sister that was in the Army, a mother that had been in the
Yeah.
Army, a father that had been in the Navy, and his one sister joined the National Guards. All that, and he's the only boy evades it. So it was kind of hard for us to take, but we took it. We realized that was his idea.
I remember struggling with that at that time, because I knew that I could be going. It's turned out that I flunked the physical, but I'm blind in this one eye and didn't weigh very much at the time. But I give some hard thought to that one, because
Well, I'm sure everybody. You must be about the same age as my son.
yeah,
Let's say what? Late 40s?
yeah, I'll be 53 in August.
Well, that's what he is, 53. So you were in that same bracket where you heard a lot of that that was Vietnam time.
I finally decided I didn't want to really go up and kill anybody, but I was willing to go.
Mhm.
If they used me for target practice, I didn't care about that, but just the idea of killing somebody else, it was hard for me.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, you'd like Bob. He's quite a guy.
I bet I would. I like your family. What I've met of your family is pretty
Well, I
decent.
think we got a nice family.
You do, very good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
what
you
time?
run out of tape space?
Pretty much.
Oh, he's shaking his head.
You got anything else you want to put
No.
on the tape?
I don't think so. I just am happy with the family I have and had, and those that are dead I'm sorry for, but the living are all there pushing me along.
Well, Lieutenant Sheridan, I'd like to thank you for this interview and for your service to our country. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And you